Well, this is me getting ready to go out front in a few minutes, and of course I'm nervous. Um, but on the other hand, I'm really sort of excited that I get a few minutes to actually talk about
That's my
me.
brother.
I don't generally get to talk about myself without some kids interrupting or someone interrupting or somebody telling you how they did or how theirs was bigger or worse or better or whatever. So it's kind of nice to have an opportunity to tell my story uninterrupted, and maybe somebody will actually listen to me instead of me having to be in the background all the time.
I feel awesome. I am so excited about going on stage, telling my story. Being part of Tiffany's public speaking class has just helped me to have more confidence in what it is I want to say, and also has given me the understanding of how to project and how to get my message across. So I'm all excited. I got this, and can't wait to get started.
I'm Kathleen, and I joined this speaking class with Tiffany, and it was wonderful because it gave me some confidence to be able to talk into a large crowd. So speaking tonight is really going to empower me and make me feel great about be able to tell my story. So I'm just looking forward to this.
So I feel like I'm in uncharted territory, very nervous. The unknown, it's pretty scary. I've never talked about myself before in such a crowd. So it's making me a little queasy, I gotta be honest. But I'm excited at the same time to do this because it's something that I feel is an important subject, and I'm looking forward to telling the crowd my story, and I'm just hoping that it all comes out the right way.
Hi, I'm Sherry, and we're getting ready to go on and do our talk for voices, and we're going to be talking about how we are great, and we're getting greater, and so it's pretty exciting. Of course, we're all a little nervous and stuff, but what's going to happen is we're all going to just knock it out of the park because everyone has learned so much, and the best part was we really got to know each other and we got to bond, and these ladies are the best women, so you're all going to love it.
So right now, I'm calmer than it was this morning. I'm not as shaky as I was. My story keeps changing as far as what I'm going to talk about because I did not prepare as much as these girls did. But I'm proud more than anything. This is a journey that they've been on, that they trusted me to take them on, and the fact that they're all here, that they're not vomiting, and that they're standing behind me laughing is a testament to what we went through over the past 10 weeks. And to know that my dream came true about 5 years after I put it out there and it's happening on stage, there's no better feeling. No matter how many people are here, the fact that we're on stage is just the best thing that could have happened for the beginning of this year. This is bigger than just these women telling their story. This is so much confidence coming from sharing when things were going great to something happening and them stopping their lives for other people and then learning something from that and moving forward and becoming greater because of it. And they're going to share this story, and some of it may be sad, some of it may be triggering, so I'm just letting you know that right now. But the goal is that they're still standing in front of you, being able and willing to share it in front of you because they learn the skills to do that. So with that being said, our first speaker is Kathleen Rivera, who is working at home instead. You might know her throughout the community. She's very involved, and she's from New York originally, and she has a beautiful story of how she came to work with seniors and how she came to move from New York to Florida and what's happened to her since. So please give a warm welcome to Kathleen Rivera.
So my story begins, it's the year 2017. I'm living in New York. I'm married. I have 2 daughters. One is graduating from college. The other one is graduating from high school. And I am working at a nursing home for veterans. And it's a pretty big place. It's about 252 beds. And I just love helping seniors and especially the veterans. I was very proud to be working there. I started there in 2001. And I really thought that's going to be the place where I'm going to retire. I also would, start my morning and I would dress up in these cute little dresses. I was much thinner then, much younger, and I would strut down the hallway, and the residents would actually know that it was me coming down the hallway, just the sound of my heels. And they would say, oh, we know who that's coming. And, I would chuckle and give them a hug. And I actually love the attention. I actually love older men, so I was definitely in my element. My mom used to say to me, oh, your grandfather would be so proud that you're working for veterans, because my grandfather was a veteran, and he unfortunately had his hand shot off in the war, and I kind of grew up with that, so he had the hook, and, I had a lot of empathy of, what they went through, so I was, I really could relate to them in some ways. What I did is I made it my business to know every resident by name in that facility. And I also made it my business to know every family member that came through those doors. And I was proud of it. And it really was my home. I was more there than I actually was at home. And, that being said, I worked long hours. I was never home on time, unfortunately. My husband would get annoyed by it because he was home before me, and he, of course, had a hobby of going bowling, and that was his thing. So I would have to rush home all the time, make sure I got the dinner done, and also I had to get my kids to activities, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'd be rushing all the time, going to ballet, lacrosse, the whole 9 yards. And it was hard, but, again, I would not have done anything different. Again, I loved being at the nursing home. It was all I ever wanted to do. But as time went on, my husband, who also worked in a nursing home, not the one I was at, he traveled. He was having some issues with dizziness and fainting, and he called me up at the job and he said, Kathleen, I don't feel good. And I would say, he had vertigo, but, it was becoming more frequent, and I just didn't know what it could be. So we'd go to the emergency room, and of course they would do all sorts of tests and find nothing wrong with them. And then not only that was happening, while I'd be asleep at night, he would be having these vivid dreams. And they were so vivid that they were nightmares. And he'd be screaming and he'd be punching me. And one time he actually threw himself out of the bed. And this went on all the time. And I was exhausted because, of course, I had to go to work. And I didn't know what it could be. And then one day, one of my friends says, hey, I see your husband. He's walking a little funny. He's not swaying his arms back and forth. And I thought, okay, I never really noticed that. So I decided, okay, let's go to a neurologist next. So went to a neurologist, and as my husband walked into the neurologist's office, the neurologist says, I know exactly what your husband has. He has Parkinson's. And I'm thinking, how did that happen? They must be wrong. Because I know what Parkinson's is. I work in a nursing home. I have plenty of residents have Parkinson's. Are they trying to tell me my husband's going to end up in the nursing home? Is my whole life going to be now changed forever? And what am I supposed to do? And my husband was only in his early 60s as this happened. But as I was, thinking about it, I started to go back when he was in his 50s. He used to complain that his right arm was very heavy and that it would bother him. And the doctors all said, oh, it's from bowling. You bowl too much. That's why it's paining you. That wasn't it. That definitely had to have been a sign that he was already starting of Parkinson's. It was a shock. My husband, I think, was just in shock too. Didn't know what to expect. That's not what we were thinking. Obviously nobody wants that. And as time went on, it was getting harder for him to go to work. So we're thinking, okay, he's going to have to take early retirement. That's going to cut the income. And then other things started happening. My mom, who lived in Palm Coast here for 20-something years, she all of a sudden was having some medical issues. And what was happening to her was that she would end up breaking her elbow, and she fractured her ankle. And it was getting harder and harder for her to be independent at home because she wasn't living with anybody. And I knew that I was the only child and I was going to have to help my mom. So I didn't know, like, oh my God, you know, I can't be at two places at once. So I decided that, you know what, I'm going to have to move to Florida. So in 2018, we made the decision to sell my beautiful home of 23 years. My daughter, who graduated college, decided she's going to go to Maryland. That was another thing that just tore at my heartstrings because I knew I wasn't going to be able to see her all the time because she's going to be too far. My other daughter, I had to take with me. I couldn't just leave her there. So, and in the interim, which is even more, I had two older small dogs that were 14 years old, and my mother had two older dogs the same age. So when we went to Florida, we all came together as a package. But the hardest part of all this was to actually leave the veterans home. Was the hardest thing I had to do, to say goodbye to all those residents. Those were my family. You know, everybody knew me. That's what it was all about. And I had the hardest time letting go of that. And when I came here, we all moved in with my mom. My mom was thrilled, of course, because she's been waiting forever. She used to call me every day and say, Kathleen, you told me 10 years. And I'm like, Ma, I got kids in school. I just can't take them out of school. And so, of course, she's thrilled. And I'm there, and all of a sudden reality hits. Oh my God, I gotta find another job.
The way that this happened for this person is sad but beautiful at the same time, and the way that she has helped transform people's lives and understanding what you're here to do on earth is really purposeful and beautiful at the same time. So I'd like you to help me welcome Miss Sherry Klein.
Hello, everybody. So, my story starts about when I was 6 years old. My grandmother lived with us all of my life, and my parents, of course, lived there too, but I was like a runt of the family, so the other kids were already grown and gone. And so my grandmother was always there for me. But she had a bad heart condition. And in the day, you got to remember, this is over 61 years ago. So she would have chest pain. And in the day, they would give you morphine. And we had glass syringes and the needles. And we had morphine we had to draw up. She would develop her chest pain, her angina, and this is how they treated it back then. So what happened was she developed the pain, and I'd go and I'd sterilize all the syringes and the glass syringes, and I would draw up the morphine, and I would run to the neighbors and find one of the neighbors. There were a couple ladies who could give the injection. She'd be back to normal in no time. Now I'm 17 years old. I got my driver's license. I think I'm big. I can drive at night. I go to the hospital. She's in the hospital for the first time ever in my life. And I'm visiting her, and she's talking to me about all these people who have been visiting her. And they were like ancestors of hers. Some of them she knew, but some of them she didn't know. But she said that they were like related to her grandparents. This is called visitations, which I know now. And she's telling me about it, and then she says, oh, and by the way, there's a few right here in the room with us now. And I'm like, woo, okay. You know what? She is not, she's with it. She's cognitive with it. She's not hallucinating, and I know it. And then she develops chest pain again. Well, we all know what you do with chest pain, right? You give them morphine. So I run out, and I tell the nurse, can she have her medicine? They say, she'll have it at 8 o'clock when it's due. Okay. So 8:30 comes, and I run out, and I say, how about, can she have her pain medicine now, please? And they said, we'll give it to her, but you have to leave because it's after visiting hours, and, you know, you're a little kid. So I leave. Right before midnight, we get a call to come to the hospital, and I go in with my mom and dad. We go in, and there lays my grandmother's body on the bed. She has died. The life of her has gone, the spirit, the soul, it's gone. There lays her body. But on her face, have you seen the painting, the famous painting, The Scream? The eyes are wide open. The mouth is wide open. The face muscles are pulled, and she is got that expression stuck on her face. So we're out in the hall, and I ask the nurse, I say, what time did she get her pain med? And they said, my mom said, shh, Sherry, shh. And, you know, she's shushing me because you have to be a nice little girl. So she said, we found her on rounds. We just found her like that. And I mean, that happens. And I said, I just want to know what time, if she ever did get any pain med. And she said, didn't say anything. My mom says, shh, Sherry, be quiet. Don't question the nurse. Be a good girl. She actually said these things. And so I looked at the nurse, and I stared at her, and I said, I'm going to be a nurse one day, just because I don't believe that death has to look like that. I don't know what death looks like, but I don't think it has to look like that. And I kept my promise. And I went through life. You know, I got married, became a nurse, had 3 kids, moved 12 times in 12 years, and settled in Florida, thank goodness. So I work in ICU, and all I do is see death. And it just doesn't sit right with my soul. There's something more to it. In conventional medicine and allopathic medicine, as it's called, we're all about technology, and we are so lucky we have the best technology, and it works really good. But yet some people take it too far, in my opinion, and they forget something. There's a missing piece, and they're forgetting it. They haven't found it. So when so in the meantime, I'm working. My kids are now teenagers. They're all in sports, and I have this terrible backache because I'm a nurse. And so I go to school. I go back to school to get my BSN so I can get another job. And I take on the caregiving of my parents, move them from Texas. So I'm in that sandwich. Like so many of you here are. You're doing everything, caregiving for everybody but yourself. And you're working dang hard. So there I am. And people are telling me, you have no right to go to school. You know, you have kids, you have to be a mother. You go to work and then you be a mother. That's all you should be doing.
Well, I just want to make it clear that when I did Voices on the very first day is when they learned that they were going to be sharing their stories on stage. And I told them, pick a story that happened to you where life was going great, then it wasn't, and then it got greater. You could pick any point in your life. You could pick it as a child, as a teenager, as an adult, as you are now. It could be about work. It could be about family. It could be about friendships. It could be anything. And they chose the most difficult parts of their life. And what I took away from that is that they had the confidence to do that. And they felt the strength to do that. And they felt that their story was valid and that it needed to be shared to help somebody in the audience. And I didn't tell them that they had to change their story. I didn't rewrite it for them. I just helped them piece it together and build the picture so that they could share it. I just want to make sure that the students that are joining my next class know that I did not torture anybody to share any like deep, dark secrets or moments in their life, not to make light of any of it. And also, while I'm here, I really want to thank our sponsors that helped make this happen, that helped this event happen, and definitely Premier Chiropractic. Thank you so much, Dr. Erica, for being one of our greater sponsors. We all utilize her. She breaks my neck. I call myself a pain in the neck when I get there, and Kara makes sure that my face is on point, so we all appreciate going there. So thank you guys so much. And also all of our sponsors, which you can check on your programs if you scan the QR code on the back of your badge. If you weren't aware, the programs are there and all the sponsors are named, so thank you. And so our next speaker is really hard to introduce because you just heard about somebody witnessing people passing away, but how do you introduce somebody who did pass away? Not once, not twice, but I'll let you hear it from her. Please welcome Cindy Polverino. Turn your mic on.
There's a song from 1997 by Chumbawamba. It's called Tub Thumping. And I identify with a line in the song. It's called, it says, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. And that's sort of like my theme song. At least I didn't intend it that way. See, I died 5 times. I died 5 times while I called Baptist Hospital Jacksonville my home for 8 months. Let me give you a little backstory. I'm going to wind it back to the 90s. I lived in Tennessee, and I had a restaurant with my husband. It was named after my oldest daughter, and one day we're sitting on the couch, and we had one of those vision boards that people have, but ours was the inside of the cabinet door. And inside the cabinet door, we had pictures we put up there. We had a bulldog up there that we wanted to have one day, and a motorcycle and an SUV, and we had a picture of this beautiful house. And we said, we need to build that house, but we don't want to build it here in Tennessee. So we, on a whim, we went and got the kids from school and daycare. I had 3 children. And we loaded them up, and we started in Virginia and went down the coast to find the perfect place to build that house. So when we got to St. Augustine Beach, we said, this is about as perfect as it gets. And we found a house. We went back to Tennessee, and within a couple of months, we had bought a house, we'd sold a house, and sold a restaurant, and we were beach residents. So life went on pretty good, and life was very good, actually. I was living in a dream home in the dream city. And we got jobs. We started different kinds of jobs, and I got a job in mortgage. And I liked the job at the time because it was banker's hours, and I could be home with my kids on the weekends and at night. So everything was great. We built that dream house. We lived in a beautiful house, but then we built the dream house. It was a 3-story Key West home built in the dunes with the big water oaks cascading over it. And then one day, my husband got nasopharyngeal cancer, and it was bad. It had traveled into his lymph system, and it was lower. And he had to go in immediately for a radical neck dissection, took out a part of his neck, and had to have radiation and chemotherapy. My job was in Jacksonville in a call center. I had moved up to loan officer status, and I was working down there, and things were going really well. the refi boom came around, and they were hiring warm bodies, and I got the nerve to get on the phones and sell mortgages, and timing was great, and I sold 650 mortgages one year. It was just about anybody could do it, but they told me at my company, they said, be quirky. And to me, that was like, ding, ding, I can be quirky. Quirky's sort of my thing. And that propelled me to new heights. I bought the Cadillac. We built another house across the street to match the first house because it had to have another one sort of like it in the neighborhood. But when he got sick, I thought he was going to die. And so I left my job and went into retail in St. Augustine so I could be close to my home because I didn't want to have to move my children, and I wanted to be there for him. But lo and behold, he got better. It took about a year. He was really sick, and he hasn't had a rebound of the nasopharyngeal cancer, which is great. He's had a couple other weird things, but he's doing fine. So it was about that time the bubble burst. And being in mortgage is not a good place when the bubble bursts. I had acquired several properties at the beach, expensive homes that were now worth about half of what I owed on them. Of course, when the bubble burst, the jobs burst too. There were no jobs in mortgage, there were no jobs in banking, and it was pretty stressful. Suddenly the kids don't have cell phones anymore, and they're not, getting the allowances and going to the movies. Things tightened up quite a bit. So they were acting out a little bit because, as you know, teenagers, life just is about as big as their cell phone. So I ended up, the marriage was on the rocks at that point because we had financial stress, we had kids acting out, and health stress, and the marriage just didn't work anymore. It had been 26 years, and the original model didn't work so well. So the therapist said, he said, what you need to do, Cindy, is you need to establish a home, your own home, your own rules, your own hierarchy, because things had sort of gone awry in my family. Nobody knows about anything like that happening ever. And so I got a job in food service sales, and I worked in downtown Jacksonville. I moved down there, and the plan is that I worked downtown Jacksonville during the week, and my husband stayed home in our house, and then on the weekends, on Friday night, we had a change of the guard. And he went somewhere, and I came home, and it was Friday nights were great. I'd go to Publix, and I'd fill up the grocery cart. About $400, it got you this at Publix. Now it gets you like this. But the kids were happy because they knew that they and all their friends were going to eat well for the week. So one day I was doing things that...
what do you do when you've used your voice so much on behalf of everybody else that when it comes to you and what's going on with you, you have no words left to speak? Who stands up for you? Who speaks for you? And how do you speak up for yourself? And what do you do if you're lost and you don't even know how to communicate what's wrong? So please give it up for Renee DiVincenzo.
Hormones. You're having a bad day? It's your hormones. Not feeling good, kind of down, kind of out. It's your hormones. Well, I have to say, it's not always hormonal. The change, the tears, the confusion. Let me share with you what the difference was for me. I remember back in 2018, can you hear me? Hello? I remember back in 2018, yay! I remember back in 2018, we were able to move to Florida. But Florida was like a second home for us. My husband played sports. He went to Miami-Dade North. He transferred to Florida Southern. And that's where he got drafted by the Chicago White Sox. So we would always go to Sarasota for the winter months to train. So we loved Florida. Now life throws you curveballs. We didn't move down the way we wanted to. But when we had gotten here, my husband still had to go back to New York because he needed to find work. So as we were here, or I should say as I was here, I was settling in and getting my business started. And I would work with people who needed to outsource their back office. And during this time, I needed to meet people. I wanted to go out. I wanted to know what this place was about, Palm Coast. Went to networking events, met people. And then my husband got a job, and he finally was able to move down. As we were preparing for the following year, and the holidays were coming, my husband comes to me in the kitchen and says, Renee, there are some people at the door. I said, okay. He said, can you come to the front? And I said, can't you take care of it? He said, Renee, can you please come to the front? I'm like, okay, I'll go to the front. And as I walked to the foyer, to my surprise, I saw my mother. I saw my brother, my sister-in-law, my niece, my nephew. They came to surprise us for the holidays. You see, I hadn't seen my mother in a year and a half, and it was so good to see her. We laughed. We cried. We shared great memories. And then they had to leave. It was sad, but we made a plan. And the plan was how we were going to see each other, how I was going to go up to New York, how I was going to get my mom down here to relax a little bit. But then the unexpected happened. COVID. I couldn't fly to New York. My mom couldn't come down to see me. But we made it happen. Even though that curveball came at me, we made it happen. We Zoomed. I would talk with her on the phone as I was driving. Of course, with not holding my cell phone, it was to my car. And we would just catch up. And when we were able to come back, because COVID was not so bad, and in 2021 was a big year for my mom. She was going to be 80. And I said, okay, I'm going to come up, see you for your birthday. We're going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. And then life hit another curveball at me. I got COVID. I couldn't go to New York. I couldn't be with my mom. So we were on Zoom, saying happy birthday. Still had the chance. We made it happen. I made it happen, even though that curveball came. And then a few months after that was my big day. I was going to be the big 6-0. And I said, you know what? This is going to be a great birthday. Never want to celebrate my birthday, but you know what? I'm going to be 60. This is going to be great. So I said to my mom, hey, look, I know you don't know Zoom, but we'll talk on the phone. And when we're ready to sing happy birthday, you'll be on the phone with me. So we made that arrangement about 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock came. 4:30 came. 5 o'clock came. So I called my brother and I said, hey, you want to go check on Mom? She didn't call. So he went over to check on her. And then I get the call. I said, she was probably busy. She's always doing something. And when I answered the phone, it was my brother. And that's when he said my mom died of a heart attack. I said, what? I had to get to New York. I did whatever I could to get a flight, but I got there. And it was so strange being there, not seeing my mom come through the doors. And did I ever think that when it was my 60th birthday, that I would be planning my mom's funeral? So, got through that, went back to New York, went back to Florida. We were getting ready for Thanksgiving. And we had a great Thanksgiving. It was nice. You know, my family was there, my mother-in-law was there. And then the weekend after Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law falls. And 4 days later, she dies. Did I ever think that I would be doing this again? To go back to Mayapath, New York? To go back to the same funeral home? To view my mother-in-law in the same room that I was there 2 weeks prior with my mom? The funeral director came up to me and said, I can't believe you're here again. And I looked at him and I just said, neither can I. So we got back down to Florida. Now it's Christmas, getting ready, right? Baking, cooking, presents, and just keep on doing what I had to do for my family, supporting my husband. And when the next year came, 2022, is when I said, I'm putting all of this behind me. I'm going, and this is going to be my year, and I'm going to make it happen.
Thank you. A monkey skipping, a parrot singing, a child eating candy, a dog chasing a cat, a parrot, what color pink. What do these things have in common? Absolutely nothing. But that is what my mind thinks when I am trying to learn something or hear something someone is trying to teach me. My brain goes in different places. I cannot focus. I have no idea what's going on. And I know you know that's true. That's why you're laughing, because you know me. And that's where my brain is most of the time. And even as a young child, I remember that happening to myself. Playing, and I remember just being confused, just playing Barbies. Kids would make up what was happening, and it was my turn, and I'd forget, like, oh yeah, I'm just shopping, don't worry, I'm here. I had no idea. And then it was time for school to go into kindergarten, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna be fine. Kindergarten, everybody's excited, right? You go into school, you go in the class, it's all colorful, it's bright. I'm not remembering, of course, that my mind is probably not gonna be able to pay attention. I'm 5, I don't know those things, right? I walk in, it is just so cool. ABC, 1, 2, 3, everything looks cool. But my eye catches the corner, and there's a slide in the corner. And if you knew me then, I loved the playground, the swings, the slides. I loved it all. And my eye was on the elephant slide. And the teacher says to us all that you can play with anything in the class, you can color, we're going to have so much fun. But you can only slide on the elephant slide when you get an answer right. So all the kids were all excited. Yeah, what's the question? We got the answers. And I knew in my head, I already knew I was in trouble at 5 years old. Oh, I knew. She'd ask the questions and the kids were right there. By the time their hands were up, I didn't even remember what she asked. So guess what? I never got to ride that slide. And to this day, it's obviously still bothering me. I'm still here talking about it, right? Stinking slide. I didn't buy my kids an elephant slide either for that very reason. I wouldn't do it. And I remember at the last day of school, and I went up to the teacher, and I asked her, and you're 5, you're cute, you think you got this? And I said, can I go down the slide? And she looked at me and said, no. I said, no? What? Who would think she would say no to me? She said, I told you need to learn your lessons. This was back in the day when they gave ribbons and awards. People won things. So if you didn't get it right, you didn't get the reward. And she taught a lesson. And I did learn the lesson, but it really hurt me. And I'm still here thinking about it to tell you part of the story. So I remember that happened, and I walked out of the class, kind of sad, really sad. And I was like, all right, moving on. Now, I was in that school for the next 5 years, that elementary school. And I would walk by that class, and I'd look at the slide, and I'd see the kids on it. And it bothered me every year. Year after year, I would see that slide in the corner. I did want to sneak in and try to go do it, but I knew I'd get in trouble, so I didn't. And it bothered me until I was too tall to fit on it. And then at that point, I knew it's over for me. I'm not riding that slide. Okay, whatever. But during elementary school, I remember the teachers would come up to me and ask me a question. Always the same question. Are you sure you're Jared's sister? Now, Jared is my brother. He's 1.5 years older than me, and he's very smart. He can read a book and understand it. I can't. You can tell him something and teach him something, and he gets it just like that. I do not. So they had to remind me that I was his sister, but not like him, and ask me, is Jared your sister? Your brother? Are you sure? Oh, well, yeah, we look like twins. Of course, I'm sure. And they'd say, you look like him, but you don't act like him. Well, I didn't think I had to act like him. He's a boy. He's my stupid brother. I don't want to act like him. But they had to throw it in my face. Teacher after teacher after teacher. They would tell me, Jared has all A's. Jared's going to be something. Jared got this. Okay, what could I do? What do I say? What do you say as a child when a teacher is trying to humiliate you, basically? And say, are you sure you're related to that whiz? You stupid fool? That's what I felt. She didn't have to say it, or he didn't have to say I was a stupid fool, but that's how I felt. And that happened all through elementary school. Well, then it came time for middle school, and I thought, life's going to change. It's going to be different for me now. I'm 12. I'm almost a teenager. It's happening for me. The year of Nina is happening, right? It's going to be great. Middle school, what do? You think, this is so cool, right? I'm going on the bus with the high school kids, because where I lived, the high school and middle school were on the same property. So you got to ride with the big kids. So this was cool. So we get to school. I'm so excited. Get in line. The teacher has to hand us our schedule, because now this is the year that you start to switch classes. All excited. So I get my paper. I got my things in my hand, and I walk around and I look. I find my class. I take a seat. I'm so excited. I have my Trapper Keeper. You remember those. Everybody loves the Trapper Keeper, right? Put it on my desk, my pencil. I'm ready. It wasn't as colorful as the elementary schools, but I was ready. Although I look around and I see the class is bigger, books are much thicker, the teachers look meaner, I'm in trouble, and I knew it. So what did I do? Same thing I always did. Jokes, laugh. Hey, what are you doing? Psst, trying to hit people, to talk to them, kick things over, throwing gum, all the things you do when you cannot pay attention because your mind is thinking of everything else except what's happening in that classroom. One day, after about the first week of school, I'm sitting in my desk, doodling, drawing, who knows what, and I remember the teacher coming right up to my desk. And I look up, and she says, "Are you sure you're Jared's sister?" Again, she's already asked me about 3 times at that point. Yes, I'm sure. We look alike. I know. Yes. Why? Well, he did not act like this. I know. I've heard it all before. Well, the teachers and I have decided you need to take your desk into the hallway. And that's where you're going to stay. And we will bring the work to you. And if you have a question, you come to us. And I sat there for a minute and thought, is this really happening? Like, this doesn't seem real. And I see all the kids are looking at me. Some are scared. Some are laughing. Some were wondering what's going on. And the teacher says to me again, "Let's go, Nina. We're waiting. You are distracting the class. Get up and move your desk." Okay. And I grab my trapper keeper, my backpack, and out I go, out the door. With my desk, literally dragging it out the door. Here I am in the hallway now. Empty. So now I take a seat. Who cares what I do now, right?
How do I feel? I have to say that I feel absolutely awesome. I feel great. I feel that I can really speak in front of anyone, and I was just so excited to share my story and to also let people know that because you have PTSD, as I shared with my story, you can be anything it is that you want. And I just want to just thank everyone for their support, and I'm just so excited, and I can't wait to do this again.
It was a really good experience. Totally better than I thought it would be. It went easy, and since our story was just to tell a story about our life and, you know, the challenges that we went through and how we got from it being great to being greater, it was fun. And the people in the audience just seemed to be awesome too. They were very receptive, and that made it easier, and I appreciated it, and I felt like I was just talking to them. And I liked it. It was fun. Yes.
I feel relieved. I'm so glad it's over. I never talked about myself in that way before. It was very interesting. I'm just really glad that I took the class and found my voice, and I do look forward to doing it again. It was awesome.
Okay, I'm just glad that I was first. Made me feel good, but it was actually very good. It was fantastic. I enjoyed every moment of it, and I definitely would encourage other people to take this course with Tiffany for sure. It'll empower you and make you feel good about yourself.
This was scary, but cathartic, and to grow, you have to push yourself. And this was definitely difficult for us because moms, women, aren't typically used to being center stage, so this was a pretty remarkable experience.
I'm adrenaline crashing, so I'm excited. I think I have to process, and I think after tonight I'll realize, wow, we did it. We really did it. It's cool that it's the second annual Great to Greater event, and it is just going to get great to greater as it always does. I'm super proud of the girls. I'm excited about our next adventure, and the new adventure starts tomorrow with the new class. So we're just getting going on it. We're like no time for rest. We're just going to get it going and take over the world. So I'm excited. I'm exhausted, but I'm just running on adrenaline and can't wait to see everybody.